Dr. Sarah pressed her palm against the cool metal wall of Galactic Medical Station Harmony, watching the morning shift change through the observation deck's massive viewport. Ships from dozens of worlds docked and departed in carefully choreographed patterns, their hulls gleaming against the star-scattered darkness of space. She had worked here for 3 years now, the only human physician among a staff of 200 medical professionals representing 47 different species. The morning briefing room buzzed with the typical mixture of languages, clicks, and harmonic tones that served as the universal soundtrack of cooperation. Doctor, a tall with silver skin and 4 arms, gestured dramatically as he addressed the gathered medical staff. Another human patient arrived yesterday claiming level 9 pain from what appeared to be minor thermal burns, announced, his crystalline voice carrying notes of amused disbelief. The burns covered perhaps 2% of his body surface. Any child would rate such injuries at level 3, maximum 4. Soft chuckles and agreement sounds rippled through the assembled physicians. Doctor, a squat with thick purple hide, added her own observation. In mice emergency centers, we automatically reduce human pain ratings by 60%. Their emotional responses to minor discomfort are quite theatrical. Sarah felt her jaw tighten, but she remained silent. This conversation happened at least twice a week. The galactic medical community had long ago concluded that humans possessed both an abnormally low pain threshold and a cultural tendency toward dramatic exaggeration. Every medical database, every training manual, every standard protocol reinforced this belief. Doctor's attention turned toward her, his large oval eyes reflecting genuine curiosity rather than malice. You've worked among your own species. Surely you understand why humans display such elaborate responses to minor stimuli. Sarah straightened, choosing her words carefully. Human pain responses vary significantly between individuals and situations. Perhaps the current assessment protocols don't account for all variables. The room fell quiet. Doctor, whose mandibles clicked thoughtfully, leaned forward. Doctor, the galactic pain scale has been calibrated using responses from 73 different species across 400 years. Human responses consistently register as the most excessive and unreliable. The data is quite clear, added, pulling up holographic charts that filled the center of the room. Look at these neural response patterns. When exposed to identical stimuli, humans show brain activity levels 3 to 4 times higher than the galactic average. Their stress hormones spike dramatically. Their vocal responses are significantly louder. Every measurable indicator points to either severe or deliberate exaggeration. Sarah studied the displayed data, recognizing the fundamental flaw that her colleagues couldn't see. The charts showed human responses compared to average galactic responses, but they made a crucial assumption that all nervous systems functioned similarly. What if humans weren't exaggerating? What if they were actually enduring significantly more pain while trying to appear normal? Before she could voice this thought, the medical center's emergency alarm cut through the morning briefing. The distinctive red pulse of a Code 7 trauma bay activation sent the entire medical staff into immediate motion. Doctors' 4 arms moved in practiced coordination, closing holographic displays and accessing emergency protocols. Multiple casualties incoming, the station's AI announced in its neutral tone. Construction accident at Docking Bay 12, estimated arrival in 4 minutes. The briefing room emptied as medical personnel rushed toward the trauma bays. Sarah found herself running alongside Doctor and Doctor, their longer strides forcing her to work harder to keep pace. The silver skin had shifted to a deeper, more focused hue that indicated heightened concentration. Construction accidents usually involve multiple species, noted as they entered Trauma Bay 1. Excellent opportunity to observe comparative pain responses in real trauma situations. The massive bay doors opened with a hydraulic hiss, and the first casualties began arriving on hover gurneys guided by emergency medical technicians. Sarah's trained eye quickly assessed the injured workers, 2 with severe crushing injuries to their lower appendages, unconscious but stable, with what appeared to be significant burns across his chitinous exoskeleton, clicking in distress but alert, and bringing up the rear, a single human male. Sarah's breath caught in her throat. The human, probably in his 40s with graying hair and work-weathered hands, was walking. Not limping, not stumbling, but walking steadily alongside his gurney while pressing a blood-soaked cloth against his left side. His work coveralls were torn and stained with what appeared to be coolant fluid and blood, and a piece of twisted metal protruded from his right shoulder. "Sir, you need to lie down," one of the EMTs was saying, her melodic voice filled with concern. "Your injuries require immediate attention." "I'm fine," the human replied, his voice steady despite obvious exhaustion. "Just need to make sure you got everyone else out first." Tommy was closest to the coolant leak and took the worst of the blast. Doctor approached the human with scanner in hand, his oval eyes widening as he read the results. Patient exhibits severe internal bleeding, punctured lung, possible spleen damage, and significant thermal burns on approximately 15% of body surface. Neural activity indicates extreme pain levels. The human looked down at the scanner readout and shrugged. "Yeah, it stings a bit, but I've had worse. You should see to the others first." Sarah watched her colleagues exchange glances. The workers had lost consciousness from pain levels significantly lower than what this human was currently experiencing. Despite his species' renowned toughness, was receiving strong analgesics for burns covering less area than the human's injuries. "This is precisely what we discussed in briefing," Doctor murmured too. "Obvious exaggeration and attention-seeking behavior. Look at how he minimizes serious injuries for dramatic effect." But Sarah was looking more carefully. The human's hands trembled slightly when he thought no one was watching. Sweat beaded on his forehead despite the medical bay's cool temperature. His breathing was carefully controlled, the pattern of someone fighting to maintain composure against overwhelming sensation. Most telling of all, when he thought himself unobserved, his face showed brief flashes of agony that he quickly suppressed. "Patient refuses to acknowledge pain severity," noted in his medical log. "Typical human denial and exaggeration paradox. Beginning treatment protocols with adjusted pain medication dosage per human guidelines." Sarah stepped forward. "Doctor, perhaps we should." "Doctor, please prepare the standard human trauma kit," interrupted. "We'll need the enhanced analgesics due to their particular sensitivities." As Sarah gathered the medical supplies, she watched the human worker submit to treatment with quiet dignity. When Doctor began cleaning the puncture wound, the man's knuckles went white where he gripped the examination table, but he made no sound. When they extracted the metal fragment from his shoulder, his entire body tensed like a coiled spring, but he simply bit down hard and endured. "Fascinating," Doctor observed. "Notice how he continues the performance even during treatment, such dedication to the dramatic narrative." Sarah felt something cold settle in her stomach. Her colleagues weren't seeing what she was seeing. They were so convinced of human exaggeration that they interpreted obvious signs of barely controlled agony as theatrical performance. They had no idea that this man was enduring pain that would have rendered most of their patients unconscious, and he was doing it without complaint because he believed that was normal. As the medical team worked, Sarah began to understand the true scope of the problem. Humans weren't exaggerating their pain. They were desperately trying to hide it, to appear normal and functional while experiencing levels of sensation that would incapacitate most other species. The galactic medical community had spent 4 centuries misinterpreting human attempts at stoicism as evidence of weakness. The construction worker was finally sedated and moved to a recovery bay, but not before Sarah caught him asking about his injured colleagues. Even under the influence of powerful analgesics, his first concern was for others. "Remarkable species," commented as they completed their shift reports. "Such elaborate emotional displays over relatively minor trauma. The galactic databases are quite accurate in their assessments." Sarah nodded automatically, but her mind was racing. She needed to find a way to demonstrate the truth, to show her colleagues that everything they believed about human pain response was not just wrong, but catastrophically backwards. Humans weren't the weakest species in the galaxy. They might just be the strongest, and no one had bothered to notice. The implications sent a chill down her spine. How many human patients had received inadequate pain management? How many had suffered in silence, believing their agony was normal? How many had been dismissed as dramatic when they were actually demonstrating incredible endurance? As she prepared to leave the medical bay, Sarah made a decision that would change everything. She was going to prove the truth about human pain tolerance, no matter what it cost her. The galaxy needed to know what humans were really capable of enduring. The evidence was right there in the medical data, waiting for someone brave enough to challenge 4 centuries of accepted wisdom. Dr. Sarah intended to be that someone, even if it meant putting herself through unimaginable testing to prove her point. The human capacity for endurance was about to shock the galaxy, and Sarah would make sure every species understood just how wrong they had been about humanity's true strength. 3 days after the construction accident, Dr. Sarah found herself standing outside Recovery Bay 7, reviewing the human patient's charts with growing unease. Had emergency surgery to repair his punctured lung and internal bleeding, procedures that should have left him bedridden for at least a week, according to standard galactic recovery protocols. Instead, she found him sitting up in bed, carefully exercising his uninjured arm while reading something on a data pad. The metal fragment wound in his shoulder was healing remarkably well, and his vital signs showed none of the distress patterns typical of post-surgical patients. Mr. Sarah entered the bay with Doctor close behind. "How are you feeling this morning?" Looked up with a genuine smile. "Much better, Doc. When can I get back to work? The team's short-handed with Tommy still recovering, and we've got those new habitat modules that need installation." Doctor's forearms moved in a gesture of disbelief. "Mister, you underwent major surgery 72 hours ago. Your body experienced significant trauma. Most species require at least 2 weeks of recovery time." 2 weeks? Eyebrows rose. "For this? Look, I appreciate the concern, but I feel fine. A little sore, maybe, but nothing I can't handle." Sarah watched make notes on his data pad, clearly documenting another example of human pain denial. But she was seeing something else entirely. Breathing was still slightly shallow from his lung injury. Occasionally, when he thought no one was watching, his hand would drift toward his surgical sites with an unconscious protective gesture. Most telling of all, his pain medication requests were far lower than any other species would require for similar injuries. "Mister," Sarah said carefully, "on a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate your current discomfort level?" Considered the question seriously. "Maybe a 3, 4 at most. Really, it's not bad." Showed Sarah his scanner readings. The neural activity patterns indicated pain levels that would register as an 8 or 9 for most galactic species. Was experiencing significant pain and reporting it as minor discomfort, apparently without any conscious deception. After they left the recovery bay, pulled Sarah aside in the corridor. "Doctor, I've been thinking about our recent human patients, and I'm beginning to notice some concerning patterns." "What kind of patterns?" The silver skin shifted to a more muted tone, indicating deep thought. "Their reported pain levels consistently contradict their neural readings, but it's not simple exaggeration. It's almost as if they genuinely believe they're experiencing minimal discomfort when all physiological indicators suggest otherwise." Sarah felt a spark of hope. What if the issue isn't with human reporting, but with our interpretation of the data? Impossible. The galactic pain scale has been validated across dozens of species. The methodology is sound. But what if human nervous systems process pain fundamentally differently? What if what we're measuring as excessive response is actually normal human experience? Stopped walking, his large oval eyes focusing intently on Sarah. "You're suggesting that humans naturally experience more pain than other species, but have adapted to function normally despite it." "I'm suggesting we test that hypothesis." That afternoon, Sarah found herself in the medical station's research laboratory with Doctor and Doctor, the neuroscientist. They had assembled a comprehensive array of pain measurement equipment, from basic neural scanners to advanced biochemical analyzers. "Doctor," clicked his mandibles thoughtfully, "you understand that what you're proposing challenges 4 centuries of established medical science." "Sometimes established science is established incorrectly," Sarah replied, settling into the testing chair. "I'm willing to undergo controlled pain stimuli to demonstrate the difference between human experience and human reporting." Calibrated the equipment with obvious reluctance. "Sarah, if you're correct about this, the implications are disturbing. We would have been systematically undertreating human patients for generations." "That's exactly why we need to know the truth." The first test involved controlled electrical stimulation, the same procedure used to calibrate pain responses across different species. Sarah felt the initial pulse, a sharp tingling sensation that gradually increased in intensity. She reported her pain level honestly as it climbed from 1 to 3 to 5. "Fascinating," observed, watching the neural readouts. Her brain activity is already showing patterns that we would expect at level 8 or 9 for most species, but she reports level 5. I'm being honest, Sarah said through gritted teeth as the stimulation continued to increase. This is what a 5 feels like. By the time Sarah reported reaching level 7, her neural patterns were showing activity levels that would indicate unbearable agony for any other tested species. Sweat beaded on her forehead, and her hands gripped the chair arms tightly, but she remained conscious and articulate. "This is impossible," murmured, double-checking his equipment. "No other species maintains consciousness and communication at these neural activity levels." "Maybe no other species needs to," Sarah managed, as the test reached its conclusion. The thermal pain test produced similar results. Sarah's skin showed sensitivity patterns identical to other species, but her ability to process and cope with the resulting sensation was dramatically different. Where other species would be incapacitated, humans apparently learned to function. "Doctor's voice carried a note of awe. Your species' nervous system appears to be fundamentally different from anything we've encountered. You experience pain with the same intensity as others, but your brain has developed mechanisms to compartmentalize and manage sensations that would overwhelm most nervous systems." Doctor was reviewing 4 centuries of human medical data with new understanding. "Look at these historical records. Humans consistently perform complex tasks while injured. They remain functional during medical procedures that require full anesthesia for other species. They report for duty with injuries that would hospitalize most galactic citizens." "We thought it was denial or exaggeration," Sarah said, still recovering from the tests. "But it's adaptation. Humans developed the ability to function despite pain because our survival depended on it." The laboratory fell silent as the implications sank in. Every human who had ever been dismissed as dramatic or weak had actually been demonstrating extraordinary endurance. Every human patient who had been undermedicated had suffered through procedures that would have been considered torture for other species. "There's something else," said slowly, pulling up comparative data. "If humans can function at pain levels that incapacitate other species, what does that suggest about human capabilities in other extreme situations?" Sarah had been wondering the same thing. Maybe pain tolerance isn't the only area where humans are different. Maybe we've been underestimating human capabilities across the board. That evening, news of the preliminary findings spread through the medical station staff. By the next morning, Sarah found herself at the center of intense scientific curiosity. Doctor appeared at the laboratory door with a dozen other physicians from various species, all eager to understand the implications of the research. Doctor's thick purple hide had shifted to colors indicating confusion and concern. "If your findings are accurate, we need to completely revise our understanding of human physiology. The medical implications alone—" "That's just the beginning," interrupted, his mandibles clicking rapidly in excitement. "If humans can endure sensations that disable other species while remaining fully functional, it suggests evolutionary adaptations we've never encountered." Doctor had spent the night reviewing every piece of human medical data in the galactic archives. "I've found incident reports from across the galaxy. Humans completing critical tasks while suffering from injuries that would have killed or incapacitated any other known species. Humans working through pain levels that our equipment can barely measure." "The construction worker from 3 days ago," Doctor realized suddenly. "He walked into the medical bay with injuries that left 2 workers unconscious. We thought he was being dramatic." "He was being normal," Sarah corrected, "for a human." The room buzzed with excited conversation as physicians began to understand the scope of their misconception. 4 centuries of medical treatment based on the assumption that humans exaggerated pain, when the truth was that humans possessed pain tolerance beyond anything in the galactic database. But Sarah knew this was just the beginning. If her species could endure pain that incapacitated others, what other human capabilities had been misunderstood or overlooked? The galaxy was about to discover that they had severely underestimated humanity's true potential. Doctor was already planning expanded research protocols. "We need to test human responses to every environmental stressor. Temperature extremes, pressure changes, toxic atmospheres, physical exertion limits. If pain tolerance is this dramatically different, other capabilities might be equally surprising." As Sarah left the laboratory that evening, she felt the weight of discovery settling on her shoulders. She had set out to defend human dignity against accusations of weakness and exaggeration. Instead, she had uncovered evidence that humans might be the most resilient species in known galactic civilization. The research laboratory hummed with activity as Dr. Sarah prepared for the most comprehensive pain tolerance study ever conducted in galactic medical history. Word of the preliminary findings had reached the highest levels of the Galactic Medical Council, and representatives from 12 different species had arrived at the station to witness the expanded testing protocols. Doctor adjusted the neural monitoring equipment for the third time, his silver skin displaying patterns of nervous excitement. Sarah, you understand that these tests will push human pain tolerance to levels we've never measured in any conscious subject. I understand, Sarah replied, settling into the enhanced testing chair that had been specially designed for the expanded study. But we need definitive data. The galaxy needs to know the truth about human capabilities. Doctor's mandibles clicked as he calibrated the biochemical analyzers. The preliminary results have already caused significant controversy. 3 medical schools have suspended their human physiology courses pending review of the curriculum. Around the laboratory, representatives from the Medical Institute, the Academy of Sciences, and 10 other prestigious institutions watched with mixture of skepticism and fascination. Dr. Han, an elderly with decades of experience in xenobiology, had traveled from the galactic core specifically to observe the testing. Dr. Han's melodic voice carried notes of concern. In my 40 years of medical practice, I have never encountered a species capable of conscious function at the pain levels your preliminary tests suggest. Are you certain you wish to proceed? Sarah looked around the room at the assembled scientists. 4 days ago, every physician in this station believed humans were the weakest, most pain-sensitive species in the galaxy. We've been medically neglected and dismissed as dramatic for centuries. If proving the truth requires enduring some discomfort, then that's what I'll do. Doctor activated the recording equipment. Test Sequence 1, graduated electrical stimulation with enhanced monitoring. Subject is Dr. Sarah, human female, age 34, excellent health baseline. The first phase began with familiar low-level electrical pulses. Sarah reported her pain levels honestly while the assembled scientists watched their instruments with growing amazement. At level 5 human-reported pain, the neural activity readings were showing patterns that would indicate severe trauma in any other species. Impossible, muttered Doctor, a crystalline being from the outer rim. No conscious entity should maintain cognitive function at these neural excitation levels. Yet here we are, Sarah replied conversationally, even as the electrical stimulation reached intensities that would have rendered most galactic species unconscious. Level 6, approaching 7. The room fell silent except for the humming of monitoring equipment. Dr. Han's instruments were registering biochemical stress responses that exceeded anything in his extensive database, yet Sarah remained alert and responsive. Doctor's voice carried a note of awe. Your brain chemistry is showing adaptations we've never documented. Your nervous system is compartmentalizing pain signals while maintaining full cognitive function. The thermal testing produced even more dramatic results. Sarah's hand was subjected to temperature extremes that would cause immediate unconsciousness in most species. She gritted her teeth and reported the sensation as pretty uncomfortable, maybe an 8. 8? Doctor stared at his readings in disbelief. Sarah, our instruments are measuring neural responses equivalent to what other species experience as level 15 or 16 pain. Such levels don't exist on the standard scale because no other species remains conscious to report them. Doctor leaned forward, her crystalline form refracting the laboratory lights. You're suggesting that humans routinely experience pain levels that would be considered beyond the threshold of consciousness for any other known species. I'm not suggesting it, Sarah said through gritted teeth as the thermal test continued. I'm demonstrating it. The pressure resistance testing revealed perhaps the most shocking results of all. Sarah's arm was subjected to graduated compression forces while she maintained conversation and performed simple cognitive tasks. At pressure levels that would shatter the bones of most galactic species, Sarah was rating her discomfort as significant but manageable. This is unprecedented, Dr. Han recorded in his notes. The human subject is maintaining full mental faculties while experiencing physical stressors that exceed our measurement capabilities. But it was the duration testing that truly amazed the assembled scientists. Sarah endured sustained low-level pain stimulation for 6 continuous hours, reporting consistent discomfort levels while performing complex mathematical calculations and engaging in detailed technical discussions. No other species has ever maintained consciousness for more than 43 minutes under sustained pain stimulation, noted. Doctor has been conscious and functional for 6 hours and shows no signs of the neural exhaustion that typically forces unconsciousness in other subjects. Doctor was frantically reviewing his data, his 4 arms moving in patterns that indicated extreme mental agitation. Colleagues, what we're witnessing challenges every fundamental assumption about pain tolerance and conscious endurance. Humans aren't just different from other species. They're operating on a completely different scale. As the tests concluded, Sarah sat quietly while the scientists processed their findings. Her body ached from the sustained testing, but she remained alert and engaged. Around her, representatives from the galaxy's most prestigious medical institutions struggled to comprehend what they had witnessed. Doctor approached with something resembling reverence in her crystalline voice. Your species has endured pain levels that we would consider beyond the realm of survival. Yet you've done so while maintaining conversation, solving problems, and even demonstrating concern for our research protocols. That's what humans do, Sarah replied simply. We endure what we must and keep functioning. Dr. Han was reviewing the complete data set with other senior researchers. The implications of this research extend far beyond medical treatment. If humans can consciously endure physical stressors at these levels, it suggests evolutionary adaptations that could revolutionize our understanding of biological limits. Approached Sarah with his preliminary analysis. Your neural patterns show that human brains have developed unique mechanisms for processing extreme sensation without losing cognitive function. It's as if your species evolved specifically to remain operational under conditions that would incapacitate others. Maybe we did, Sarah mused. Earth was never an easy world. Maybe survival required the ability to keep going no matter what. The laboratory buzzed with excited discussion as the implications became clear. Human pain tolerance wasn't just higher than other species. It existed in a completely different category, suggesting that humans had evolved capabilities that no other known species possessed. We need to expand this research immediately, Doctor declared. If humans can endure these pain levels, what other environmental extremes might they survive? Temperature ranges, pressure changes, toxic atmospheres, physical exertion limits. Doctor was already pulling up historical human data. Look at these incident reports. Humans working in environments that should be lethal. Humans surviving injuries that should be impossible to recover from. Humans maintaining function in situations where any other species would have long since collapsed. We've been categorically underestimating human capabilities for centuries, realized. Every human we've encountered has been operating under conditions that would challenge the survival limits of most galactic species, and we thought they were being dramatic about minor discomfort. As evening approached and the formal testing concluded, Sarah found herself surrounded by scientists eager to understand the broader implications of their discoveries. The data was already being transmitted to medical institutions across the galaxy, where centuries of established wisdom about human limitations was being rapidly reconsidered. Dr. Han approached her with a data pad containing preliminary analysis. Doctor, based on today's testing, we estimate that humans routinely function at stress levels that exceed the maximum survival thresholds for 68% of known galactic species. And that's just what we've measured so far, Sarah added. I suspect we've barely scratched the surface of human endurance capabilities. The elderly, melodic voice carried notes of amazement. Your species has been living among us for decades, quietly demonstrating capabilities that we completely failed to recognize. The medical community owes humanity a profound apology. But Sarah was thinking beyond apologies. If humans could endure pain that disabled other species, if they could function under stress that exceeded galactic survival standards, what did that mean for humanity's role in the galaxy? What other capabilities had been overlooked or misunderstood? The testing had revealed that human pain tolerance was just the tip of an iceberg. Humanity possessed adaptations and capabilities that could reshape the galaxy's understanding of biological limits and survival potential. As the scientists prepared their reports and planned follow-up studies, Sarah realized that her simple desire to defend human dignity had uncovered something much larger. The galaxy was about to discover that humans weren't the weakest species among the stars. They might just be the strongest, and no one had bothered to notice until now. The emergency sirens cut through the morning calm of Galactic Medical Station Harmony with an urgency that sent every physician racing toward their stations. Dr. Sarah was reviewing the expanded research data when the station's AI announced the crisis in its unnaturally calm voice. Station-wide emergency, catastrophic system failure in Section 7, toxic atmosphere breach. All medical personnel to emergency stations immediately. Sarah rushed toward the central command center alongside Doctor and Doctor, the corridor filled with the controlled chaos of emergency response. Through the viewport, she could see Section 7 of the station venting atmosphere in brilliant streams of crystalline ice, while emergency containment fields struggled to maintain structural integrity. "What happened?" Doctor demanded as they reached the emergency command center. Station commander, a massive with thick armored hide, turned from the central display with obvious distress. "Coolant system failure in the industrial section. We have a toxic atmosphere leak affecting 3 habitat levels. 47 personnel trapped in the affected areas, including critical repair teams." The display showed the affected sections in stark detail. The toxic atmosphere was a lethal mixture of industrial coolants and vented gases that would kill most galactic species within minutes of exposure. Worse, the rescue teams couldn't reach the trapped personnel without exposure suits, and the station's limited supply of environmental gear was insufficient for a rescue operation of this scope. "How many humans are trapped in the affected areas?" Sarah asked, a terrible suspicion forming in her mind. Commander checked his personnel roster. 15 human workers, including the primary engineering team responsible for the coolant system repairs. Doctor immediately understood the implications. "Sarah, if your research is accurate about human endurance capabilities, those workers might be the only personnel capable of functioning in the toxic environment long enough to effect repairs." The command center fell silent as the full scope of the situation became clear. The toxic atmosphere would kill or incapacitate most galactic species within minutes, but humans might be able to endure it long enough to repair the containment systems and save everyone trapped in the affected sections. "Commander," Sarah stepped forward, "I need to speak with the trapped human personnel immediately." The communication system crackled to life, connecting to emergency beacons in Section 7. A familiar voice answered the call, strained but steady. It was the construction worker from the recent accident who had insisted he was fine while walking with severe internal injuries. "Doc, that you's voice carried through the static. "We've got a situation down here." "What's your status?" "Well, it's pretty nasty. The air's gone bad, burns the throat and lungs something fierce. Most of the non-human workers went down fast. Poor doctor from engineering, he lasted maybe 2 minutes before the fumes got him. But us humans were still conscious. Hurts like hell to breathe, but we can manage." Sarah felt the command center's attention focus on her with laser intensity. "How long have you been exposed to the toxic atmosphere?" "About 20 minutes now. It's rough, Doc. Eyes are streaming, throat feels like I swallowed broken glass, and my chest burns with every breath. But we're still functional. Jake thinks he can reach the manual override for the containment system, but it means crawling through about 50 meters of the worst affected area." Commander stared at the atmospheric readings in disbelief. 20 minutes of exposure to that toxic mixture should have killed them. The chemical analysis shows concentrations that would cause immediate respiratory failure in 93% of galactic species. Doctor was frantically checking his instruments. "Commander, the atmospheric composition includes industrial solvents, vented coolants, and oxidizing agents. Even brief exposure should cause severe chemical burns to respiratory tissue." Sarah activated the communication system again. "I need you to be completely honest with me. How much pain are you experiencing right now?" A pause filled with the sound of labored breathing and background voices of other trapped humans. "Doc, I won't lie to you. This is probably the worst pain I've ever felt. Feels like breathing liquid fire. Every breath is agony, but we can handle it. We have to handle it. The command center erupted in amazed conversation. Doctor's forearms moved in patterns of extreme agitation. Sarah, they're conscious and functional in an atmosphere that should have killed them. Your pain tolerance research was just the beginning. Commander, Sarah turned to with sudden determination, the humans can repair the containment system. They're the only ones who can survive long enough in that environment to reach the manual controls. Doctor, I cannot ask personnel to endure potentially lethal conditions. You're not asking, they're volunteering. Are you still there? Still here, Doc. Jake's already started toward the containment controls. Tommy's working on sealing the secondary breach. We know what needs to be done. Through the communication system, they could hear the humans coordinating their emergency repairs while enduring atmospheric conditions that would have incapacitated any other known species. Their voices were strained with pain, but they remained calm and methodical. Doctor was monitoring the toxic levels in real time. The atmospheric composition is actually getting worse as more systems fail, yet the humans continue to function. Commander watched his displays with growing amazement. In 40 years of station command, I have never witnessed anything like this. Those workers are operating in an environment that exceeds our safety protocols by orders of magnitude. Jake's reached the containment controls, reported, his voice hoarse but steady. Initiating manual override now. Tommy, how's the secondary seal coming? Almost got it, came another human voice, equally strained but determined. This atmosphere is nasty stuff, but it's not going to stop us from finishing the job. The station's engineering displays showed the containment system slowly coming back online, as the human workers completed repairs that should have been impossible under such extreme conditions. Toxic atmosphere levels began dropping as the emergency seals engaged, and ventilation systems resumed operation. Containment restored, the station AI announced. Atmospheric purification in progress. Emergency teams may now enter affected areas with standard protective equipment. As rescue teams rushed to Section 7, Sarah found herself surrounded by amazed colleagues from a dozen different species. Doctor, the crystalline researcher who had observed the pain tolerance testing, approached with something resembling awe. Doctor, what we have witnessed today transcends medical science. Those humans just completed complex technical repairs while enduring atmospheric conditions that would constitute lethal torture for most galactic species. Dr. Han was reviewing the complete incident data with obvious amazement. The chemical analysis shows exposure levels that should have caused immediate organ failure, yet the human workers remained conscious, coordinated, and effective throughout the emergency. But it was Doctor who voiced what everyone was thinking. Sarah, this isn't just about pain tolerance anymore. Your species has demonstrated survival capabilities that exceed anything in our scientific databases. An hour later, the rescued human workers were brought to the medical bay for treatment. Sarah was amazed to see that while they showed obvious signs of chemical exposure, severe respiratory irritation, and significant pain, they remained alert and conversational. Sat on an examination table while Doctor treated his chemical burns. Doc, that was definitely a 10 on your pain scale, maybe 11, but we got the job done. Sarah studied the treatment readings. You were exposed to atmospheric conditions that our instruments classify as beyond survivable limits. How did you keep working? Shrugged, wincing slightly at the movement. Someone had to fix it. Folks were counting on us. Pain doesn't change what needs to be done. Doctor paused in his treatment to stare at. You're speaking as if enduring lethal environmental conditions while performing complex repairs is routine. Isn't it? Looked genuinely confused. I mean, when something needs fixing and you're the only one who can do it, you do it, right? The medical bay fell silent as the implications sank in. The humans weren't just tough or brave. They had a fundamentally different relationship with pain, danger, and survival than any other species in the galaxy. What others considered impossible, humans treated as merely unpleasant but necessary. As Sarah completed her examination of the rescued workers, she realized that the day's emergency had revealed something profound about humanity's place among the stars. Pain tolerance was just one aspect of a broader pattern of human adaptation and endurance. The galaxy was beginning to understand that humans didn't just survive in extreme conditions. They thrived in them, remained functional in them, and continued to care for others even while enduring circumstances that would break most species. The research data was important, but the real-world demonstration had been even more powerful. 15 humans had just saved an entire station while enduring conditions that exceeded the survival limits of known galactic civilization. The question was no longer whether humans were different from other species. The 6 months after the Section 7 emergency, Dr. Sarah stood before the Galactic Medical Council's assembled representatives in the grand amphitheater of the Central Medical Academy. The circular chamber buzzed with conversation in dozens of languages as delegates from 137 worlds gathered to hear the final report on human physiological capabilities. The research that had begun with a simple desire to defend human dignity had grown into the most comprehensive study in galactic history. Teams of scientists from across known space had contributed data, observations, and analysis that would reshape medical practice throughout the galaxy. Doctor, now bearing the title of Chief Researcher for Human Studies, approached the central podium with data crystals containing their complete findings. His silver skin displayed patterns of excitement and professional pride as he addressed the assembled delegates. Honored colleagues, his crystalline voice carried clearly through the amphitheater, 6 months ago we believed we understood human physiology. We were catastrophically wrong. The massive display screens around the chamber activated, showing comparative data that still amazed Sarah even after months of analysis. Human pain tolerance charts stretched far beyond the previously known galactic scale. Environmental endurance data showed humans surviving in conditions classified as uninhabitable for most species. Doctor's initial research revealed that humans experience pain at the same neural intensity as other species, but possess unique cognitive adaptations that allow continued function at sensation levels that would incapacitate any other known life form. Dr. Han, the elderly researcher, rose from his delegation's seating area. Doctor, the implications of this research extend far beyond medical treatment. We have fundamentally misunderstood human capabilities for centuries. The display screens shifted to show incident reports from across the galaxy. Humans working in radiation levels that should have been lethal. Humans surviving atmospheric exposures that exceeded safety protocols. Humans recovering from injuries that would have permanently disabled most galactic species. The Section 7 emergency provided real-world validation of our laboratory findings, continued. 15 human workers completed complex technical repairs while enduring atmospheric conditions that exceeded our instrument's ability to measure survivable limits. Sarah watched the assembled delegates process this information with growing amazement. Representatives from worlds that had hosted human workers were beginning to understand incidents they had previously dismissed as exaggerated or impossible. Commander, now recovered from the station emergency, stood to address the assembly. Distinguished delegates, I witnessed human capabilities firsthand during our recent crisis. What your species considers impossible, humans accomplish while expressing concern for others. Doctor, the crystalline researcher, activated her own data display. Our expanded studies have revealed that human environmental tolerance exceeds known survival parameters across multiple categories. Temperature extremes, pressure variations, toxic exposures, radiation levels, and physical trauma thresholds all show the same pattern. The amphitheater fell silent as the full scope of human capabilities became clear. Delegate after delegate reviewed the data with expressions ranging from amazement to something approaching awe. But it was Doctor who delivered the most stunning revelation. The neuroscientist approached the podium with mandibles clicking in patterns that indicated extreme scientific excitement. Colleagues, our neurological analysis has revealed the mechanism behind human endurance capabilities. The human brain has evolved unique neural pathway structures that compartmentalize pain and stress responses while maintaining full cognitive function. The display showed detailed brain scans comparing human neural activity to other galactic species. While most species showed overwhelming neural disruption under extreme stress, human brains demonstrated remarkable ability to isolate and manage pain signals without losing consciousness or cognitive ability. Doctor gestured toward Sarah, volunteered for neural mapping during controlled stress testing. The results show that humans possess neurological adaptations that are unique in our scientific database. Sarah rose from her seat as applause filled the amphitheater. The past 6 months had been exhausting, painful, and occasionally frightening as she submitted to increasingly complex testing protocols. But the results spoke for themselves. Honored delegates, Sarah addressed the assembly, the research began because humans were consistently dismissed as weak and overly dramatic. We discovered that the opposite was true. Humans have been quietly demonstrating extraordinary capabilities while trying to appear normal among species with very different limitations. The delegation leader, a massive being with thick armored hide, stood to speak. Doctor, your species has worked alongside ours in environments we considered challenging even for physiology. We assumed you were struggling to keep up. Now we understand you were probably bored. Scattered laughter filled the amphitheater, but the underlying implications were serious. Humans had been systematically underestimated and underutilized throughout galactic civilization. The medical protocols alone require complete revision, announced Dr. In, head of the Galactic Medical Standards Committee. We have been providing inadequate pain management for human patients for generations. Every hospital, every clinic, every medical facility must update their treatment standards immediately. But Sarah knew the implications went far beyond medical treatment. The research had revealed that humans possessed environmental tolerances and endurance capabilities that exceeded most galactic species' survival limits. Ambassador, representative from the Galactic Exploration Council, approached the podium with obvious excitement. Doctor, if humans can function in environments that challenge our most sophisticated survival equipment, it suggests applications for exploration and colonization efforts that we never considered. The industrial implications were equally staggering. Human workers could operate safely in environments that required expensive life support systems for other species. Mining operations, construction projects, and manufacturing facilities could be revolutionized by properly understanding human capabilities. Doctor returned to the podium with final statistical analysis. Colleagues, based on 6 months of comprehensive testing, we estimate that humans routinely function at stress levels that exceed maximum survival thresholds for 87% of known galactic species. And that's just what we've been able to measure and verify, Sarah added. We suspect there are other areas where human capabilities exceed current understanding. The amphitheater buzzed with excited discussion as delegates began considering the practical applications of the research. Representatives from mining worlds, exploration services, emergency response organizations, and construction guilds were already planning to recruit human specialists. But it was the cultural impact that amazed Sarah most. For the first time in galactic history, humans were being recognized not as the weak, dramatic species that required special accommodation, but as extraordinarily capable beings who had been hiding their true abilities behind attempts at normalcy. Dr. Han approached after the formal session concluded. Your research has revealed that humanity possesses survival adaptations beyond anything in our scientific database. The galaxy owes your species both an apology and a debt of gratitude. Sarah smiled as she watched delegates from across known space discussing the implications of human capabilities. We never wanted special treatment, we just wanted to be understood. As the assembly dispersed, Sarah found herself surrounded by researchers eager to expand the studies into other areas of human capability. The pain tolerance research had been just the beginning. Scientists now wanted to understand human cognitive resilience, emotional adaptability, creative problem-solving under stress, and dozens of other areas where humans might possess unique advantages. Doctor approached with data pads containing preliminary proposals for expanded research. Sarah, we've received funding requests from 43 different institutions wanting to study various aspects of human physiology and psychology. What are you most curious about? Sarah asked. Everything, replied, his silver skin displaying patterns of intense scientific fascination. Your species has spent centuries quietly demonstrating capabilities that we failed to recognize. The question isn't what other abilities humans might possess. The question is which ones we want to study first. As Sarah left the amphitheater that evening, she reflected on the journey that had begun with a simple desire to defend human dignity. The research had revealed that humans weren't just different from other galactic species. They were adapted for survival and function in ways that exceeded the galaxy's understanding of biological limits. The medical databases were being updated. Treatment protocols were being revised. Emergency response procedures were being rewritten to account for human capabilities. Most importantly, the galactic community was beginning to understand that humans had never been the weakest species among the stars. They had been the strongest, and everyone had been too focused on their own limitations to notice. As news of the research findings spread across the galaxy, Sarah knew that humanity's role among the stars would never be the same. The species that had been dismissed as dramatic and weak was about to be recognized for what they had always been: survivors capable of thriving in conditions that would challenge the limits of known galactic civilization. The galaxy had finally learned the truth about human pain tolerance, and in doing so, had discovered that they had been surrounded by extraordinary beings who had been hiding in plain sight for centuries. The age of underestimating humanity was over. Was how different, and what other capabilities had been overlooked in 4 centuries of galactic contact. The implications were staggering, and they had barely begun to understand what it meant for humanity's place among the stars.